Hello and welcome to Granada Reports. We are live for the latest across the northwest.
Hello, thanks for joining us. Coming up on the programme this evening.
Could Andrew Malkinson's wrongful conviction have been overturned earlier? It's emerged that prosecutors had vital DNA evidence years before he was finally cleared of rape.
They could have done something about this a lot earlier. They knew that this person didn't commit that crime. The evidence was there and they failed to act on that. That is absolutely appalling.
Go on, Sam!
A life tragically cut short when he was gunned down in the street. Sam Rimmer's mum shares a family video in the hope someone out there will help them find justice.
A World Cup final awaits for England as United's Ella Toone and City's Lauren Hemp help the Lionesses into the history books down under.
I thought, wow, we're going to a World Cup final. That's what dreams are made of, and yeah, absolutely over the moon.
And summer isn't over just yet, but we've still got some fairly changeable conditions to deal with. Join me later for all the details.
So do please stay with us. But first today, there's been a call for a public inquiry into the case of a man who served 17 years in prison for a rape in Greater Manchester that he didn't commit.
It's now emerged that DNA found on the victim's clothing was not a match for Andrew Malkinson. Unbelievably, that was known way back in 2007 when he served 4 years of that 17-year sentence.
Well, our political reporter Andrew Misra has been following Mr Malkinson's case. He sent this report.
Could Andy Malkinson's name have been cleared a decade earlier? His legal team say they've seen case documents suggesting that by 2009, Greater Manchester Police, the Crown Prosecution Service and the Criminal Cases Review Commission all had access to DNA evidence pointing to another suspect, yet no action was taken by the CCRC.
The documents show a very complacent and deferent decision-making process, and the main justification was the cost. They were very concerned about how much it would cost to do this further forensic work, and they turned it down on that basis.
The evidence found on the victim's clothes appears to be from testing in 2007, 4 years after the rape in Salford that Mr Malkinson was convicted for. The lack of swift intervention from agencies has prompted anger from a Greater Manchester MP.
The evidence was there and they failed to act on that. That is absolutely appalling. Questions has to be asked. And of course, the individual needs to be compensated for that. I don't know how you compensate for taking 13 years of someone's life away from them and wrongly convicting them and then adding insult to injury, knowing full well that that could have been resolved a lot earlier. I think it's devastating and it can never happen again.
But a former Tory MP and Solicitor General is demanding even tougher action and told us Malkinson's case is the worst miscarriage of justice he can remember.
Every document relating to this case in the possession of the Greater Manchester Police, the Crown Prosecution Service and the CCRC should be made public and handed over to the chairman of a public inquiry, which will reach a conclusion within 6 months. We need total candour. We need a total cleansing of the system.
After 17 harrowing years wrongly locked up, Andy Malkinson will settle for nothing less.
Well, Andrew joins us now. Andrew, firstly, those calls for a public inquiry, what's been the government's response to that?
Well, Gamal, we put those calls to the Ministry of Justice earlier. They haven't come back to us yet, but earlier today, a government minister described Mr Malkinson's case as an appalling miscarriage of justice and said that the Justice Secretary, Alex Chalk, is looking into this and will provide an update in due course.
And of course, this all began with Greater Manchester Police. So what are they saying?
Well, Greater Manchester Police haven't said anything new today. They have previously apologised, it's worth pointing out, and the Greater Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, has said that he will meet Mr Malkinson. As for Andy Malkinson, we're told that he's taking a break from the media at the moment, but there don't seem to be any let-ups in developments to his case. It's hard to believe that it's 3 weeks today only since his conviction was finally quashed, and in that time he's already managed to change rules around those bed and board compensation deductions, for example, for the wrongly accused. And now his case is raising some really stark questions for the wider justice system about how authorities deal with evidence that could potentially free people from jail.
Stark questions indeed. OK, Andrew, thank you.
Well, on to other news now. The man behind one of the country's biggest music festivals said that the words from a father from Salford whose son died after taking drugs at the event has prompted changes.
Melvin Ben, who runs Leeds Festival, said he was shocked by the evidence from grieving parent Gianpiero Cellino, who believes the event isn't safe for teenagers like his 16-year-old son David.
Katie Oscroft sent this report from the second day of the hearing.
The man behind the Leeds Festival said the words of a father who'd lost his son had affected him so much after hearing them yesterday on the first day of this inquest that he briefed his team last night on how they might improve safety and security. Melvin Ben said changes had already been made since David Cellino's death on how better to protect, in particular, those under 18 going to Leeds Festival. Gianpiero Cellino bought his son a ticket for last year's Leeds Festival. David, like many 16-year-olds there, was celebrating his GCSE results and looking forward to the future. But during the festival, he bought an ecstasy tablet for £10 from a dealer who was camped just metres away from him and his friends. He began to feel unwell, his temperature and blood pressure rose dramatically, and he died after being taken to St James's Hospital in Leeds. Melvin Ben, the managing director of Festival Republic, which runs Leeds Festival, told the inquest today he lost his first nephew to drug misuse, which gave him a level of understanding of the pain David Cellino's parents were suffering. The coroner, Kevin McLaughlin, suggested putting young people, often naive, in the same area as predatory drug dealers is a foreseeable risk. Mr Ben replied, "Yes, I've been aware of this, but Mr Cellino's evidence was compelling. It shocked me and it struck home." But he went on, "I don't believe we should stop under 18s going to festivals unaccompanied." Councillor James Gibson chairs Leeds Council's licensing committee, which reviews the organisation of the festival. He also listened to the evidence of Gianpiero Cellino. David Cellino's father said that the ticket has already been sold, which could signal the death of another young person. It just hasn't been cashed yet. Do you agree?
Of course, we're doing everything we can to make sure that young people are safe. David Cellino's parents, including Jan, yesterday's testimony was poignant, and it's raised some really important issues. You know, you can't hear a testimony like that and not rethink, and really, it really kicks on everybody's commitment to doing absolutely everything we possibly can to ensure that young people at Leeds Festival are safe.
Leeds Festival begins next week, a year after David Cellino died. The loss of his life has already prompted changes. Well, those changes include more visible security as well as undercover work to clamp down on drug dealers. Melvin Ben said there would be a dedicated control room to look out for them. And he also said that all of his staff will be briefed to look out for festival goers who might be unwell because they'd taken drugs, like David Cellino. But he said it wasn't possible to search up to 100,000 festival goers who arrive over the weekend. And he said airport-style security probably wouldn't work as it didn't stop drugs from coming into the country. This inquest will resume tomorrow. Katie Oscroft, ITV News, Wakefield.
Well, next tonight, and the mother of a 22-year-old man who was shot dead in Liverpool says time has stood still since his murder and the family can't move on without justice.
It's exactly a year since Sam Rimmer was killed. He was the first of 3 people shot dead in the city in the space of just a week. The other 2 were Ashley Dale and, of course, 9-year-old Olivia Pratt-Corbell.
Well, a number of arrests have been made in connection with Sam's murder, but no one has been convicted. Now there's a fresh appeal for information. Claire Hannah reports.
Go on, Sam! Described as the life and soul of every party, caring and loyal. Sam Rimmer's mum has released this video today showing him during his last Christmas. 7 months later, at the age of 22, he was dead. Sam's life came to an end on this cul-de-sac. It was just after 11:30. He was here with a few friends when 4 people arrived on e-bikes. One of those people fired a number of bullets. One of those bullets hit Sam. The gun which had been fired was a Scorpion submachine gun, the same type of gun which killed Ellie Edwards and Ashley Dale.
Obviously all firearms are lethal, but this particular weapon is particularly concerning, really. You know, these aren't trained gunmen. These are people who are discharging firearms, who've got relatively little control over those firearms, don't really know how to use them properly. That's one of the major reasons for this appeal, really. Obviously, it's my intention to solve Sam's murder, but also I want all those firearms removed from the streets of Merseyside.
The gun has never been found, and the e-bikes shown here moments after Sam's murder have never been traced. There have been 10 arrests so far and names have been put forward, but police need more help.
And that's really what I'm seeking to do today, is to appeal to those individuals who may well have provided information in relation to the offenders to come forward and tell us how they know this information, really, and maybe even consider providing evidence.
Police have always maintained Sam was not involved in any criminality. They say he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. In a statement, his mum Joanne is begging people to do the right thing and speak out. She says there are no words to describe the pain of losing a child. She says those responsible will lose their freedom, but their mothers will still be able to speak to and hold their sons. I will never see my son, hear his voice, or feel his arms hugging me again. Claire Hannah, ITV News, Liverpool.
Well, now, over the past few weeks, we have been reporting on South Asian Heritage Month.
Yeah, one of its founders, Dr. Benita Kane, a respiratory consultant in Manchester, has been recognised for her work to ensure the history of British South Asians is recognised.
Well, as we come to the end of this year's celebrations, we spoke to Dr. Kane to find out why this month is so important and why British and South Asian history will always be connected.
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me on the show. This stems back for me to 2017 when I took part in a documentary and I was taken back to what is now Bangladesh, but pre-1947 was part of India still. It was East Bengal. And I retraced what happened to my family and my dad in particular at the time that British rule of India came to an end. People who are white Caucasian were very much like, why don't we know about this? And people from a South Asian heritage were very much like, I wish I'd talked to my grandparents about this, because there had been this wall of silence about that history for a number of years. So I started campaigning around education and commemoration, and then I teamed up with Jasveer Singh, a fantastic chap from down in London, and we came up with the idea of a 1-month celebration.
And why is that so important?
Well, our strapline is celebrate, commemorate and educate. So the campaign is really about us understanding our heritage, our stories, our place in Britain 75 years after empire ended, and to celebrate all the amazing, wonderful things that South Asians have brought to this country.
On education, I mean, you're a big advocate of South Asian heritage being placed on the school curriculum. What would you say to those people who say, well, hang on a second, you know, there's a lot of history that children have to consume anyway?
I think one of the things we need to move away from is this has to be part of a history lesson. You can teach this history through drama, through debate, through art, through music, through so many different mediums. And one of the things we have created through South Asian Heritage Month are those resources for schools.
How frustrating is it for you? I mean, obviously, the contribution in the health service is absolutely massive, isn't it? That people don't really understand the historical basis.
Absolutely. So my own father, having fled the violence of partition, became a refugee and then somehow through amazing resilience, I don't know how he did it, became a doctor and was one of the waves of people who were recruited from the Commonwealth to come and work in the UK after the war when we were short of workforce, and helped build the great institution that is the NHS and worked for 50 years for the NHS. Got an OBE, ironically, along the way. Wow. We couldn't run the organisation without that contribution.
10 years' time, how should we be celebrating South Asian heritage?
Our goal in South Asian Heritage Month is to become completely obsolete. We do not want to exist because we shouldn't have to exist. And until we make sure that there is equality in society, the reaction to the campaign has been absolutely phenomenal.
Well, keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
On to sport now, and there is only one thing everyone's talking about: how brilliant the Lionesses were. What a win!
They were.
They were superb, and it was the Northwest Heroes who fired them into that World Cup final. Hello, Mike.
Hi guys, yeah, don't be organising anything for Sunday morning, you guys.
No, everything
We've
is
a very,
clear.
very big football match to watch.
Clear.
England will play Spain in the Women's World Cup final after seeing off host nation Australia earlier today. Goals from Manchester United's Ella Toone and Manchester City's Lauren Hemp helped the Lionesses to a memorable 3-1 win, sparking celebrations on both sides of the world. And 10,000 miles away back home in England, the Lionesses through to their first ever World Cup final.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It feels like we won it, but we didn't win it. But we won this game, and it's incredible.
Their semi-final against hosts Australia was every bit as close as expected.
We're going to a World Cup final, that's what dreams are made of, and yeah, absolutely over the moon. The World Cup is what everyone wants to compete at, what everyone wants to win, so for us making history, being the first team to get there is an honour, and we want to go out there and make the nation proud.
It's coming up! It's coming up!
I thought it was amazing. She's such a good player. I've got a shirt of how it's going to work today, but it was in the wash. England were amazing, and they did a lot better than they did last term.
I don't normally do football a lot, but I like watching the matches because it gets inspiration.
Oh my God, what a feeling. I feel like there's no words to describe what we all feel right now. It's an unbelievable achievement. Getting to a World Cup final, it's every kid's dream.
We need to enjoy these moments. Even in the game, we play with smiles, we play we play with passion, and that's what it's all about. Rewriting history is not only rewriting it, but it's also creating the memories with it and bringing the generation with us.
After winning the Euros last summer, the Lionesses' story just gets better and better. The greatest chapter of all is now ready to be written on Sunday morning. Do not miss it.
Yeah, kids, get your shirts out of the wash for Sunday morning. I love that line. So did you watch it all, Mike?
I did watch it, yeah. I was working from home this morning, Lucy.
Oh,
yes,
I was working from home as well.
Most people on my street were working from home as well because I could hear them cheering the goals in.
Yeah, I think we could hear them from further afield than that. I tell you, from Salford to Sydney, they've been cheering them on, Mike. We've had a picture in from Professor Margaret Rowe from Salford. She was watching in Allerton with colleagues and students. She says how fabulous. We were so happy, especially after that second goal went in.
Yeah, and thanks to Emma Stars who sent us this. It was taken in Sydney, where Lee Tyek and Geraldine Stars from Manchester were outnumbered in Oz, pictured with sons Johnny and James sitting at the front.
Yeah, we could hear them cheering. Mike, what a day. As you say, clear the decks for Sunday.
Absolutely. Sunday morning, 11 o'clock here on ITV1. Now then, Manchester City are back on the international stage tonight. They're in Greece for the European Super Cup. The annual showdown between the Champions League winners and Europa League winners sees City come up against Spanish side Sevilla in Athens. And it's another chance for City to lift a trophy they have never won before.
You cannot imagine how incredible happy we are to be here to play this game, because we have to win the Champions League. And this opportunity, we want to take it, because who knows when we are going to come back here to play this tournament.
I will ask my team to be the same. In the last finals, we played finals. You cannot leave the chance to win it because it's so tough to arrive. So we have to go for it with desire, and the same way we've done the last finals.
Well, meanwhile, City have accepted a bid for defender Aymeric Laporte from Saudi Arabian club Al Nassr. The defender struggled for playing time last season and has slipped down the pecking order in Pep Guardiola's squad. And meanwhile, Harry Maguire's proposed move to West Ham is off. The defender has decided he wants to stay at Manchester United and fight for his place in the first team. Bolton Wanderers already look like the team to beat in League One this season. They are top of the table with 3 wins from 3 games, and they've scored 3 goals in each of them. Last night they beat Fleetwood 3-1 thanks to a hat-trick from Victor Adeboyejo. Meanwhile, Wigan Athletic continue to chip away at their pre-season points deduction. They're on -1 now after continuing their unbeaten start to the season, drawing 1-1 at Carlisle. Into League Two, where Barrow sits second in the table but dropped their first points of the season. Trailing 1-0 away at Accrington Stanley, they scored a late equaliser and remain unbeaten in this campaign. Crewe Alexandra recorded their first win of the season. Mickey Demetrio scored 2 goals against his former club Newport County in a 4-2 result. Tranmere Rovers are off the mark as well. They were 3-0 winners against Harrogate Town at Prenton Park. And finally, Stockport County registered their first point of the season. They drew 1-1 at home to Bradford. And that is your sport tonight, guys.
Love a bit of happy sport. Thanks, Mike.
Now, we've all heard a lot about how important bees are to the future of the planet.
Yeah, they might be small, but they make all the difference. But because of our soggy summer, you might not have seen too many of them this year.
So the perfect time to find out more about them from Liverpool's Bee Whisperer.
He's known in Liverpool as the Bee Whisperer, and it's easy to understand why.
This hive is more than a year old, you know. When I was a little child, I used to just like to sit and watch the bees. In Jamaica, they make hive inside of the tree trunk, the hollow of the trunk, the tree. My grandfather used to keep bees. So it's in my genes as a beekeeper when I get to find out.
Barry Chang moved to Liverpool 20 years ago, and since then he's turned the city into a haven for bees.
Because without the bees, most of the food we eat wouldn't be pollinated, so we would have less food, like apple, pear, plum, pumpkin, runner bean, all those things have to be pollinated, you know. The bees is in an endangered species list, so I am trying to take it out of the endangered species list and put it into a top grade list.
There are more than 200 species of bee found in the UK, but only one type of honeybee.
Each of these hives can host up to 10,000 bees at a time. Each one has their own queen, but because of the bad weather, they have been impacted severely.
The pollen from the flowers get washed out and the nectar get washed out. So the bees have less food to collect to bring to their home. And the pollen is what they call the bee's bread. That's what they use to feed their baby. So without the bee's bread and the honey, they will not have sufficient food to keep them through the winter.
Over the years, Barry has made a buzz in Toxteth, building his own hive of beekeepers who all share his passion for saving swarms.
I think that a lot of cities have become very concrete, especially Liverpool. We're doing a lot of building work. It's become very concrete, and it's important that we have our pollinators and our green spaces.
So start from one corner. So this is honey. And because we feed him, that's why it have a little honey. These are just some little babies. So this is the queen. You see the queen?
Yeah.
So Barry, you've got me all kitted out today, but you don't seem to wear any kit. Why is that?
Well, the bees is my pet. I love bees. Just like how some people keep a dog or a cat.
Do you think they love you?
They don't love anybody, but you work with them, they can feel it and know what's inside of you.
Bees may be small, but they carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. Barry and his students are just helping to make their important job a little bit easier. Lauren Ostrich, ITV News, Toxteth.
Yeah, Lauren, underneath all that kit.
A much braver man than me.
Lovely report, that.
Here's Amanda with the weather.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello again.
Hope you've all had a lovely day so far. Well, the signs are for next week for it to turn much more summery and a lot warmer across many parts of the region. But ahead of that, we've still got quite a mixed forecast to deal with. So there'll still be some warm sunshine around at times, but those winds will start to increase and there will be a few showers too. And some of these showers could be heavy and thundery in places. So let's take a look at that in a bit more detail. Well, as we go into Thursday, we've got high pressure dominating. So for most of us, another fine day to come, but you can see out in the Atlantic, this next area of low pressure, that's going to drive these systems towards us. So the winds will start to strengthen. We'll see some showers, which could be heavy and thundery. And then behind that, we're back to sunshine and showers as we go through the weekend. But then this high pressure here expected to build, and that's going to bring fine and very warm conditions as we go into next week. Now, in the meantime then, for the rest of this evening and tonight, well, it is a fine end to the day. It's staying dry out there. We've got clear skies, although there will be a few pockets of mist and fog in places, and it's quite a mild night too. Those temperatures between 12 and 16 degrees. So for some, a bit of a grey start to the day first thing tomorrow morning, but it will lift and break and we'll see some lovely sunshine developing. Again, there might just be the odd isolated shower as we go through the afternoon, but for most of us staying fine and dry for much of daylight hours and feeling warm too. Highs there 23 or 24 degrees, but you can see those winds start to strengthen, so quite blustery as we go into Friday. As I mentioned earlier, a few showers around. These could be heavy and thundery, but things looking much quieter Sunday onwards.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Getting A-level results tomorrow.
I would not want to be going through that again.
No, good luck to parents and pupils.
Fingers crossed.